Mark, welcome to the consult room.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
I guess we're not actually in the same room. We're in separate locations, but it's hard to get together.
Absolutely. No, this is great. You know, I'm always looking for opportunities to get together with you. So this is perfect. Why don't we just discuss what we're doing here and what we're planning to do, and kind of go from there.
Yeah. So a podcast is kind of a different thing. But I think it's kind of an extension of our practice currently. So we have an affiliation with St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto and the University of Toronto. So we spend roughly half the week in Toronto and about half the week in Burlington. And in terms of our educational domain of our practice, we do have learners, medical students, residents, and we are involved in continuing medical education, both for ourselves and for our colleagues.
Yeah, that's right. So we are both have clinical and academic appointments as associate professors of plastic surgery. So that is something that should give us some sign of education and credibility in terms of educating. And I think plastic surgery is one area that has just so much information, and it is so difficult to navigate. And unfortunately, I think that we found is that a lot of these sources of information now are different than they were 20 years ago, where, you know, the thought leader of plastic surgery was somebody that had a associate professor or clinical professor title. Whereas today, you know, the true experts are the ones that have the greatest audiences, which are often via social media, via, you know, good web presence and other things. So I think that does kind of increase the importance of something like this, where we can provide kind of sound information to people. And whether that be patients that are in our practice or our learners, you know, we have very much a mission to educate our patients, but also, you know, educate the next generation of medical students. We want to create the next generation of leaders in plastic surgery at the University of Toronto. We want to educate about patient safety. We want to kind of go through all those things, and plastic surgery does intersect with a lot of those areas consistently.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think there's a need, there's a demand certainly for patients for information. People do take kind of deeper dives on things, but at the same time, a lot of information tends to be coming to people quicker, and those decisions are made quicker with maybe less of a deep dive. So I think having a podcast also allows us to spend a little more time on a topic for those who are interested in that topic, so they can kind of go through the lists and decide, you know, what topics they're interested in. And you'd mentioned, Mark, just in terms of the structure of how we maybe will start out, at least for the first couple episodes, and I guess we'll see how things go over time in terms of how we're going to structure the podcast.
There will be a bit of an iterative, or, you know, it's going to evolve as we go. But I think what we'll do is plan on addressing a more current topic that's either current within the scientific community. That's going to be something that people don't necessarily have access to, which is very current. Alternatively, or maybe in addition, we could also cover a very current kind of trending plastic surgery topic. I guess those do come up very commonly, so that might be of interest to our listenership. And then to take a deeper dive onto a topic more specific to plastic surgery. And I think we will provide a list of those and kind of go that way. And then afterwards, we could potentially do another part of the podcast, which would maybe involve listener questions to engage people more in terms of what they want to hear about, or maybe something a little bit more entertaining. So,
right. So, yeah, I guess that does extend a little bit from in terms of our academic practice. I mean, in terms of the research we've done over the year, the papers we've produced, they've really been extensions from questions that we've had from our daily life and our daily practice, and working with learners as well, and questions they have, and they often challenge us and say, well, why are we doing this? Why are you doing it this way? So I think it's an opportunity for us to kind of explain that a little more. The other thing I think that's really interesting about surgery and plastic surgery in particular is how decisions are made. So decisions are made sometimes because of the demand of patients, of what they want or what they perceive that they want. Sometimes it's based on evidence And sometimes that evidence is very shaky. So I think it's really important for us when we do those deeper dives to really, or if we give a recommendation, obviously every person is different, so we can't give broad recommendations for everyone to follow. But when we do kind of say things, hopefully it's in a manner that is backed up by something real. And if it's not backed up by something real, I think we can at least tell people, listen, this is really our opinion. We've had, we've practiced as plastic surgeons, as staff plastic surgeons for the past 12 years. And, an addition of, 7 years of additional plastic surgical training. So we have an idea based on that, but maybe it's not actually based on rock solid scientific evidence.
Absolutely. So yeah, so I think that's going to be great. I think it's going to be an interesting journey for us. We're going to bring in expert guests, and thankfully we do have a nice network of people that we have come to know in this field that are now very much leaders within it. So I think that's going to be a real privilege to kind of spend that time with them, also learning and also continuing to try to kind of harvest all that knowledge at the real forefront of the field. So
yeah, again, we have something to gain here too, from that.
Big time. Absolutely. Okay. So I think this episode, we really want to try to just get into just who we are a little bit more. And I guess maybe you could just start just by telling me just in broad strokes, your educational background, but then from there, maybe we'll go into a little bit more of early life dynamics and that might be of interest to some people just to understand a little bit about who we are and how we've come to this point.
Probably most pertinent to this podcast would be our actual journey to become plastic surgeons. So, it is a long process. It took many years. And maybe I'll just start from medical school, and then maybe Mark, after we go through that, maybe you can talk about maybe the early years in our family and where we come from in that respect. It began, so in medical school, we went to Yale University in Connecticut, a fantastic place. We wound up there. We're Canadian. We're from Toronto. Wound up there after having spent 4 years of University of Cornell playing hockey. So by playing hockey, that's what brought us to the United States to play hockey for the Cornell varsity hockey team. And through that experience, it kind of led us down a path to apply to medical schools broadly, really across North America, certainly in our home city of Toronto, all the Canadian medical programs, but also to some of the kind of what we perceived as more top tier programs in the United States as well. And through that process, we wound up matriculating or going to Yale University, which was, for me, a 5-year experience. I spent a year doing a master's and 4 years of medical school. And for Mark, it was a 4-year experience. He was a bit more eager to get off and on to the next step than I was. But it was Yale University, an incredible place, incredible group of mentors. And Mark, maybe you could just describe how you kind of wound up in plastic surgery after arriving at Yale.
Maybe you could just tell me just a little more about the process of getting in. I mean, I know there's 100 students in the Yale Medical School class. So, and everybody kind of had some sort of thing about them that got them there. And so what was it for you and for me? I think that's because, again, there is something, right, for any of those 100 students that are picked.
I guess the number one thing for anybody applying for medical school would be apply, right? And apply broadly, because your odds go up significantly when you apply to more places, right? So that's a huge point. You'll never succeed in something unless you try. So you have to apply. Is step number one. Number two is to try to sort out, in terms of your application, there's a few basic things. How you did in undergrad, obviously your grades do help. Helps to have, there's some standardized tests that you need to work really hard at, and maybe take even a couple times. But then there has to be kind of that something else factor. I think for you and I, Mark, it really was being hockey players. Like the fact that we had spent so much time of our lives playing hockey and really playing it at a high level, a high enough level where we were drafted to the OHL, which is a kind of a junior hockey league. We were drafted to the NHL, which is the National Hockey League. And that, I think that kind of makes an applicant a little more interesting, just because they have something else to them, another aspect. And I think really the fact that maybe you did something really well, right? So whether that's being an athlete, being an artist, whatever else, there's something different. A researcher, there's a lot of PhDs in our class, and there was 10 MD PhDs, people who had done something else that would make them an interesting person beyond just some boring bookie doctor.
I think that was the case. It made it such an interesting place also to go to school, was that everybody had something about them that was excellent. And so, yeah, so I think they really did look for something in those applications that proved some sort of commitment to excellence or some sort of commitment to hard work, teamwork, things like that, which are nice characteristics for doctors, I guess. So great. Okay, great. So then in terms of, do you want me to get into the earlier?
Before we go to the earlier life, I think maybe you should just discuss in terms of the journey. So you get into medical school, you feel great, and then a couple of days later, you turn around and realize you got to apply again. So you're not done.
Yes.
You're going to be a doctor, which is great, but you're actually the journey for applications and trying to kind of get to the next level starts all over.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of steps within medical school that are important. One is finding good mentors. So I think that's really the story for most careers, is finding good mentorship. And so that's one thing that we're pretty committed to as well, is mentoring the next generation, because we were mentored, I think, quite well. And so I think we found at Yale, we found a very, very encouraging and inclusive environment, particularly within the plastic surgery community. It was, we were welcome to all the grand rounds. I remember one of the surgeons took me on a mission trip to Thailand and a mission trip to Colombia, where we did cleft lip and palate surgery, all these kinds of experiences that were just...
Dr. Weinstein, right? Was that?
Dr. Weinstein, yeah. Dr. Weinstein, Dr. Persing. These are kind of, world leaders in, Operation Smile and all these different things. And we were just welcomed with open arms to come and be a part of the club. So I think that was very inspiring. I initially was kind of gung-ho about the idea of surgery, and I kind of toyed with the idea of neurosurgery. And then all of a sudden I walk into an operating room with John Persing, who is a board-certified neurosurgeon and board-certified plastic surgeon. And he was doing the things that, remodeling kids' skulls, and really doing kind of what I thought neurosurgery was. But actually, no, this was plastic surgery. So, what an inspiring environment. And such a welcoming environment. I feel like, oh my gosh, could I be like these people? So that was, I think, one of the moments for me. And I think, and how about for you? What's your thought about that?
Everyone kind of walks into class and you're kind of like, gosh, how am I here? This is great. And then, the next step, you're trying to do well in your classes. You're working hard for there's the board exams you have to take as you go along. And in the second year, there's that USMLE. That may have actually changed now. Are they still doing step one?
I think they still have it. Yeah, they still have those board exams they have to take. Yeah.
So those, obviously, you're pushing hard to kind of do as well as you can. But you're right. I think mentorship was just critical. And I think about the master's degree I did in melanoma research was with Dr. Deepak Narayan, who has since passed. God bless him. And he just, similar to your story, Mark, about going on a mission trip, we went on a Smile Train mission trip. He was my PI, my principal investigator for my master's degree, looking at melanoma markers and prognosis with Spitz-Nevi, which is a kind of a benign version of melanoma. So I think that's exactly right. Just to be surrounded by these incredible people, and then to think, oh my gosh, like if I kind of follow this path that they're kind of guiding you on, you too could do something similar. And that was amazing for us, I guess, us not coming from a medical family. Our grandfather actually was a doctor at St. Mike's, actually. But our father was a teacher, and mother was a homemaker. She stayed home with us and helped us kind of achieve what we could. But by having that mentorship, I think that really, filled in the narrative that was necessary to kind of get one of those residency positions, which for plastic surgery, again, there's just not a lot of them. I think in Canada, there's about, is it 25 a year?
Yeah, there's 25 plastic surgery spots per year in Canada.
Yeah. And then in the United States, I think it's around 100 and something, right? I don't have the exact number.
Yeah, but also quite
small numbers. So really critical to have people to guide you in that. And once you find those people, to really, I guess, follow their lead. And that's, I think, how we wound up where we wound up for residency training.
I'd agree with you. Yeah. Because it really was, Deepak Narayan saying, hey, listen, like these residency programs, like they're going to want a good score, but they also want to see some sort of interest in research, some sort of ability to publish papers and to push forward the knowledge of the field. So here, why don't you come and look at these projects? You can help finish them up. You can present these at these different meetings. And so, yeah, so I think that's a big thing that we're continuing to do with our learners now. And I think it was very much modeled for us by, Deepak Narayan. I mean, my gosh, what a man, right? I mean, what a person. So
yeah, it's modeled behavior. That's right. So I think you like to take credit yourself for the stuff you do, but really it's kind of, it's modeled behavior. So you kind of get bits and pieces of all these great people along the way, and then hopefully you can incorporate that into your career to make it a meaningful one. And I do find I absolutely love being a plastic surgeon. I still love playing hockey too, but it wasn't meant to be. But being a plastic surgeon, I mean, absolutely I love everything about it. I love the clinic. I love the operating room. And I love learning about plastic surgery. So again, this podcast, I think is kind of just a bit of a passion project.
Yeah, so I guess we can move on from the Yale experience, but again, like other absolute giants in the field, like remember Dr. Stephen Arian. There's just a laundry list of just unbelievable people that were just there and accessible, and
to this day, yeah, that's right.
I still can't believe it, honestly.
Yeah, and years later, these are still people that I still call. Some are retired, some have passed away. I guess you could also briefly talk about residency training, because our residency training was different. Maybe you could just tell us about the program at New York University, NYU, and it was pretty intense. Certainly, I can maybe talk about some differences with my experience as a resident in Toronto.
I think things were going through a bit of a change in terms of residency training at the time. There's a lot more focus on things like the 80-hour work week was an idea that they were, starting to implement at NYU at the time. But it was it was a great program, so it still is. And at the time, it was the number one ranked plastic surgery program. And I think a lot of different programs have that claim now, and it kind of goes back and forth. But NYU is always in that conversation and because there's just amazing people there and amazing people doing amazing things. But again, I think with that, there is a work ethic that is incredibly high. And with that, you are expected to bring that work ethic. And I think I certainly did. I think I had a very strong work ethic over those years. And it's hard to outwork some of the people down there, right? Everybody's working very, very hard. And that's why they're leaders, and that's why they're so good at what they do. I think the actual way the residency was set up was excellent in terms of the ability to work in the public system down there, which was the like Bellevue Hospital, which was much more of a resident-led experience at the time, where you really got a lot of great experience, kind of caring for patients, having clinics with supervision, but, much more independence. And then there was the private hospitals, Memorial Sloan Kettering was affiliated at the time, NYU, Langone, Manhattan Eye and Ear for more cosmetic surgery with some incredible names in cosmetic surgery. So yeah, it was like the way Dr. Sade described it was like, you're going to be drinking out of a fire hose here for the next 6 years. And that's exactly what happened, for better or for worse. And I think mostly for the better, looking back on it. But in terms of balance, like there absolutely was no balance. And I don't think anybody claimed there would be. And I don't think that's why anybody was there.
Just me kind of observing you over those years. For the first year that you were there, I was still at Yale doing my master's, and I was obviously missing my brother. So I'd be kind of running down on that Metro North train from New Haven to Manhattan to just kind of get a see you, make sure everything was going okay with you, with your multiple roommates in a tiny cramped up apartment. But yeah, it was incredible. The hours that you put in, I can say that I worked hard as a resident as well, in Toronto, which is again, a wonderful program, incredible place, incredible people. But the hours were just not what yours were. So, so I think the 80-hour work week for us was already there, already in place. And I know you were working far more than that. And it was hard to see at points, I will say, just seeing it getting just absolutely crushed. But it did give you a confidence, and I think a confidence that continues today, in terms of really, I mean, there's just no way to replace experience with really incredible people. So yeah, it's one of those things. If you want to accomplish anything, it's just it's hours in. It's discipline. It's hard work. And I think they offered all of that. They gave all that to you in Manhattan, which was really, really just an incredible opportunity for you. And I think really, when I came out of residency, again, an incredible residency in Toronto, I just had not put the same number of hours in. And I did feel at the end of it, I just saw some of the things that you were able to do independently on your own at the end of your training, versus some of the things that I maybe had some limitations on. And I then at that point really decided, gosh, I'm going to really do a fellowship in a really kind of similar, really high intensity place, to ensure that I'm kind of, I kind of even things up with my twin bro.
No, for sure. I mean, I think then that's when you kind of went across the continent there to the Buncke Clinic in San Francisco, and you were living in the operating room there for the year, which was really incredible. And I remember visiting you for 2 weeks. Was it 2 weeks? Anyway, I visited you a couple of times, and just to kind of see what you're doing, and it blew my mind. I was and to this day, I still, some of the more impressive people, and just the processes that they kind of had in place for, microsurgery at the time, were just kind of beyond what I'd seen. And then the fact that you're able to translate that into practice yourself at the time was really cool. So I still. So some of the things I do now are informed just by that brief experience going over there and watching you guys go. So that was very cool.
That year in San Francisco, fellowship, it's called a fellowship year. So you're done your plastic surgery training, you're a staff physician basically, but you kind of just want to spend some extra time with a few people that you really want to learn more from. So I went to the Buncke Clinic to learn from Dr. Buncke, Greg Buncke, Dr. Buntic, Babak Safa, Andrew Watts, and Brian Perrette. And it was a wonderful, incredible year. Again, a little more work, but also to enjoy the city of San Francisco, which was just an incredible place to be for 1 year. So, and then Mark, you came, that was your homecoming, was your fellowship year.
That's right. Yeah. So that's when I came back to Toronto, and then had a wonderful craniofacial surgery experience at Sunnybrook Hospital, which again has Dr. Jeff Fialkoff and Dr. Oli Antonishin were the primary surgeons there that I was working with, but also had the opportunity to work alongside some of the others, like Dr. Lipa and Snell and Ben Hammer. And yeah, it was a wonderful year for me, and definitely it felt like I regained a little bit of balance, I think, in that year. I wasn't taking call anymore. I was just coming in and operating. These amazing surgeons would have these cases that I'd be able to assist with and help with, and I learned so much in a nice, friendly environment. So it was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience. It took so much away from it at the University of Toronto.
I mean, Toronto is where we are now, and it is a truly special place, and really feel so fortunate to be a part of it. But yeah, so maybe Mark, I guess we're running a bit short on time, but maybe we could go back to the early days, maybe the nuclear family we come from.
My first job, I became the plastic surgery oncologist, which is a joke. Oncology is usually for cancer surgery, but I was on call basically for the city of Toronto for about a year. So I was really covering every hospital, UHN, St. Joe's, St. Mike's, Toronto Western is at UHN, the whole litany. And taking a lot of call, doing a lot of operating, everything that kind of came through the door. I said I was a hand surgeon, and that I would operate on everything I could get my hands on. That was That was the term there. It's also a dad joke, so it's okay.
We're dads now, yeah, we're middle-aged men, so I think that's hilarious.
I thought it's hilarious. Yeah. So yeah, thanks. But then a interesting moment there was with Dr. Antonician. I'd gone on several trips to the Ukraine. Or sorry, I shouldn't say the Ukraine. It's to Ukraine because the Ukraine is derogatory. So I went to Ukraine with Dr. Antonician and working on the soldiers there. This was before the war. And we're just, kind of there to more translate, provide equipment, provide training on that equipment to the local surgeons. But again, that has continued, and I have stepped back from that work just with a young family and everything, unfortunately. But there
Dr.
I met.
Antonician continues though. He is incredible.
Oh man, he's incredible, doing great work there. And Dr. Carolyn Levis was there on the trip with me, and she had just hired you at McMaster University. And so I think that was going quite well for you and for her and the team, and they had this opportunity, an opening in breast reconstruction. And my fellowship had been in basically craniofacial, facial plastic surgery. But I did feel quite comfortable with my training at NYU, and we did have a really kind of advanced microsurgical training program there.
Your experience was exceptional. Yeah.
Yeah. So there, and also having a good amount of support when I started with people like Dr. Ronan Avram and others that would be there to mentor me and help me kind of establish that program. So she said, Dr. Levis said, why don't you come and check it out? And, maybe you'll like it. Maybe you'll stay. And lo and behold, I was there I think we were there about 8 years. And, went from eventually became a clinical assistant professor and then associate professor there. And that's the rest of the story. But, yeah, so it's amazing how these different opportunities can come up in these unlikely areas. But that's how that happened. And for you, I guess maybe you could describe how how you got that job and then now you're finding yourself at St. Michael's Hospital.
Yeah. So I wound up out of California, coming back and working in Hamilton at St. Joe's Hospital with Dr. Levis is the chief of plastic surgery there. And yeah, a wonderful experience there. As you mentioned, Dr. Avram, and there's just a wonderful team of people at that hospital. And I guess I was there for about a year and a half more. So really the better part of a decade there. And then we made that transition to Toronto. Was it 2023? 2022?
I think so. Yeah, the beginning,
like
end of, yeah.
So about 3 years ago now, to St. Michael's Hospital.
I guess we only have a couple more minutes to kind of go through kind of growing up as twins. And maybe your question was about the kind of nuclear family. I guess we were the youngest.
I think we're probably going to run out of time today, but I guess we could just really briefly just talk about, where we come from in terms of our family, in terms of our father as a teacher and our mother and maybe our brothers and sisters.
For sure. Yeah. I guess we are the youngest of 6 kids. So our father had been married previously, was divorced, then married our mother. Her mother's from Trinidad and Tobago. So she had come up from Trinidad for what she thought would be maybe a year or two. And then lo and behold, she met our father, and then somehow he convinced her to stick around and have 3 more kids. So that was great. She was, I look back on that now, and I think she's maybe slightly, pretty talented and maybe a bit of a saint to be able to take all that on, especially with no family here herself other than our dad's family. So that's great. So I guess I'm the youngest. You came out about 7 minutes before.
Hard to say. Yeah.
But we always say the conception happened at the same time since we are identical twins. So that's that. Yeah, maybe you want to kind of add on to that at all, Matt? Or
we grew up in Toronto, and then kind of education and stuff brought us kind of across North America and then back at home base.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think really the biggest influences in terms of our upbringing was really obviously our family. You mentioned like the education piece. Like obviously our father was he was a teacher, very committed to education. Our older sister's a teacher. The hockey piece, the athletics, that's what we always kind of felt we were going to do for the rest of our lives. I think.
That's
I
right.
think we could honestly
I sure
say
did.
that. Yeah,
I
I think
was
we can honestly say
shocked I
that.
didn't
But
make it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And everyone has a story about how they didn't make it. Every elite hockey player has one. We have our own, each of us. But
I got a lot of great excuses. Yeah.
exactly. So, but what I think it certainly gave us just a lot of great lessons in terms of how to work at things, how to work with others, how to make sacrifices, personal sacrifices on behalf of others in terms of team-based environments. Yeah, I think there's a lot. Striving for excellence, like all those things I look back on and I just think, wow, what a great preparation for the rest of life.
Just think about my own kids now. So I have 4, and and people wonder, like, why would I get them involved in sports? It's so crazy, time, driving, all this stuff. And it's not about them ever becoming a professional athlete, which, if they did, great. But it's not about that. I mean, sports gives you so much beyond that. And I think you touched on that briefly when you were in your comments, Mark, just about just the ability to put off immediate satisfaction for a long-term goal. I think that is probably just the number one thing. If my kids could kind of figure that out as kids, I think that will really serve them so well in their careers and whatever they do. So yeah, so sports, so it gives so much. And it really has nothing to do with becoming a professional. It really has everything to do with character development.
That looks like different things to different people. I mean, I think you and I can look back on our childhood and say, gosh, I don't think you really missed out on anything. But that's a very personal decision because we were out there, we weren't as good as Sidney Crosby, obviously, but we were out there shooting pucks and we were out there doing dry land training at 5 a.m. And I think, but now I look back on it and the things I regret more aren't those times doing it. It's actually not doing it more, which is interesting. I don't know how you feel about it, but I do see different stages of our development in terms of professional athletes. And I see moments when I actually could have done more. And I actually did leave something on the table, right? So I don't know. So I think that's an interesting thing for life. There's always excuses. Oh gosh, the coach isn't playing me enough. There's this other person that's getting ice time. Whereas, really, that's really the opportunity for any player to look themselves in the mirror and look in the eye and say, okay, well, how can I be the person that the coach is going to put on the ice next time? Right? I think all those things are very valuable for people to learn.
Yeah, to understand that the control lies within you to do more, as opposed to waiting for some other person to look at you and say, oh gosh, this person should be playing in this situation. Well, no, there are things you can do at every moment. And that's really applicable to life as well. So anyways, I guess, Mark, we're probably over our limit here. So
yeah, I think we will try to get, a little bit more of a structure to the upcoming episodes, a little bit more. So see what kind of works. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have at least one listener for this one, which is our mother.
That's it.
She's going to listen for sure.
Get a heart or two.
If we can.
Maybe our wives.
You know what? That's going to be a tough sell on mine here. We'll see.
Maybe a short. We'll send a short.
You know what I think I'll do? Yeah, I think we could put it on the background here and see what they think. So shout out to the wives. Wives are wonderful.
Thank you.